Life doesn't come with an instruction manual.
So we made one.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Maciek.
And this is the Solutions Manual Podcast, your guide to making the most of your life, health, career, and relationships.
Subscribe, leave a comment, and share. Let's dive into our next episode. Hi.
Hi.
So today we have a topic that we, for some reason, also haven't discussed much together. But we did discuss quite a lot with other guests we have invited on our podcasts. And
yes,
today will be all day the conversation about physical activity. And the reason we need to talk about this is obvious. You cannot separate the human from the rest of the body. You cannot separate the body from the brain or the brain from the body. I remember how astonished I was in medical training of virtually how every part of the human body is connected somehow to the brain, one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And where the nerves directly do not reach to have an effect or receive information, it happens through a series of chemical reactions.
Yeah.
The one reason why we work together is because of the complementarity. Your background, which we'll talk about today a lot, is very different to mine, but the methods that we have used successfully are very much overlapping. And hopefully today we'll have a lot of interesting things to talk about.
Yes, I'm excited.
Good. Okay, so Sarah, you've done academically quite a lot, right? We talked about this before, your academic career, your career in the industry, but that's only a fraction of what you have been doing in your life. It is my understanding that sports have been a relatively big part of your childhood and then growing up and then throughout your education and throughout your professional career.
Yeah.
So tell me and tell us everything about that. How did that happen? What did the journey look like?
Well, some people might know that I do group and personal fitness instruction, but I've always said that was my side gig. But in preparing for this episode, it's kind of been fun for me to go back and actually reflect on how much sport and athletics I've participated in. My parents encouraged all of us to be able to experience different activities and things, and I liked crafts and art and music. I was a big Michael Jackson fan, even from early age. And my mom says I was adamant that I would never touch any sports that had anything to do with any balls. That's what she says that I said. So they wanted to put me into soccer.
And for our listeners, when we say soccer, we mean
football.
In the civilized countries, we say football.
And I was absolutely not going to do this. I was 4 years old and I said, no way, I'm not doing this. And they said, tough, you're going to do it anyway. Just give it a go. And I played soccer for 15 years after that. But that was like the entry sport.
Yeah, but when you say playing soccer, it's not going out after school with friends to kick the ball in a yard, right?
No, it wasn't intramural. It was structured. I mean, maybe not at 4 years old and 5 years old. That's bumblebee soccer. So that was my primary sport. I've played basketball. My dad even coached one of the teams I was on. I've played softball. I've had after dinner catching with my dad in the yard. I did a lot of sports daily, probably. I've played ping pong. I was taught how to swim very early. I did do dance as well. So I was very fortunate. I'm very grateful.
Is that a sport?
Dance, of course.
Wow.
Of course. I was very fortunate to be given these opportunities. I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed playing in a group sport. I enjoyed soccer, so football. So that's what I stuck with. In high school, I took ping pong very seriously. There's still an ongoing after dinner series that my dad and I started way back then.
Wow. So essentially, since the age of 5, it sounds, you have been participating in multiple different, mostly team-based sport disciplines.
Yeah.
In a structured way. It's not recreational, kind of a weekend thing.
No.
It's like a daily proper training. And
oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. And of course, the older you get, the more structure there is.
Yes.
The more training becomes a little bit more intense, the more, of course, because you're getting older and you kind of develop this appreciation for what the game is really about. And for sports like soccer, or basketball or any team sports, you start to understand how to work with the other people on your team,
Mm-hmm.
why it matters. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then in college, I played racquetball. I kept my love of ping pong for when my dad visited, but got a little bit more serious about my form for racquetball. But I'm such a huge fan of football still. And then in graduate school, I was going to the gym pretty regularly. I moved and I was in walking distance of a huge gym chain. And the
Mm-hmm.
first day I walked there, I put myself into a step class, which I actually did not know what it was.
Step
And
class.
step class, step aerobics, like think 80s, leg warmers, high intensity, except it wasn't that. It was like a true, difficult, proper warm up. It's like a combination of choreography,
Okay.
dance, balance, upper body, lower body, kind of you have a
Okay, so a whole
platform.
body complex type of an exercise. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm asking all these questions because in
yeah.
the childhood, the only sports I was encouraged to do was chess from competitive
And
sports.
some might say that that's a game and not a sport. So that's a different thing. But we're
Um,
not here to discuss rhetoric.
yes, but I find this topic fascinating, and
Yeah,
it's interesting. And we're probably going to dabble into this a lot. Like even the fact mentioning teamwork. For me, the first contact with the proper teamwork happened when I started my first job. That's where I had to start to learn that.
interesting. Yeah.
And my interests, if any, were always in individual sports. So that's very, very different,
Yeah.
and very, very active background for
Yeah.
years. Okay, so you walk into this step aerobics class.
Yep, walked into the
Uh-huh.
step class and there's a bench or a step platform and you just, right foot up, left foot up, right foot down, left foot down to a beat. The instructor calls out and builds blocks of choreography. It was packed. Everybody knew everybody else. It's kind of that high intensity and energy vibe.
Hmm.
And I just completely fell in love with it. It was this great combination of dance and balance and strength and coordination, but it was also a huge
Hmm.
challenge for the brain because you are
Yes.
trying to build choreography. This was open to all. I found that so fascinating.
Hmm.
How can you, because after training in sports
Hmm.
for so long, where you develop all of this knowledge and you work on your form, you work on your technique, you learn to get out of your own head, all of these things. And anyone could just walk into this class. How could that instructor make it so that it's accessible to everybody at
Hmm.
any exercise level?
So you've mentioned two things here, which is I think is interesting. One is it's accessible for everyone because I can imagine, let's say, playing football
Yeah.
or hockey probably isn't,
Yes.
right? It
Yes.
requires a certain level of predisposition or strength, or you need to be a certain age to even be able to enjoy this safely. So this is accessible to everyone. It doesn't require any previous training and understanding, but yet can be
No.
extremely challenging. And you've also
No.
mentioned the fact that it's good for the brain. And as we talk about this, I start to see how complex of an activity that could be, at least cognitively. Because,
Yeah.
as you said, when you go to the gym and just to work out your biceps, that is primarily, this is not really a brain workout. I mean, yes, it's necessary to have certain amount of resilience to get to the gym and then to
Yes.
sustain the training. But
Yes.
the movements are primarily demanding for the muscles.
Yes.
I mean, that's the purpose
Yes.
of resistance training.
Yeah.
Now, this combines elements of it's an auditory cue, so you need to synchronize yourself to the music that's
Yes.
playing. So complex movements,
There's
choreography
memory.
involved, like in
Yep.
memory as it would be in dancing.
Yeah.
You need to be focused, paying attention to, yeah. So there are a lot of things going on in that,
Yes.
cognitively as well as physically. Do I understand
Yes.
that correctly?
Yes. And the
Okay.
reason I'm
Hmm.
bringing this up is because I was old enough not to be playing sports in that way, right? I mean, there's
Yes.
plenty of adult leagues for lacrosse, football, hockey, these kinds of things,
Yes.
but you kind of show up when you can. You're not trying to qualify for something. You're not really
Hmm.
training around sleep and nutrition the way that you would be if you were on a team
Hmm.
or Olympic training or those kinds of
Yes.
things. They're also very injury prone because if you take a break from sports, there is some muscle memory that comes back. But but it does require this different approach to intramural or recreational sports.
Hmm.
And I thought that this was so great because you can still get the benefit of being aware of everybody else in the room. You
Hmm.
are doing something collectively. You're not passing a baton, you're not passing a ball to someone or serving back and forth, but you are interacting with the people next to you. You have to, there's spatial awareness that you need, and
Yes.
you're still
Hmm.
building strength. It's great for injury prevention. It's also great for injury recovery as well.
Hmm.
So I just thought, wow, like this format encompasses so many things. This would be great for athletes or ex-athletes to do if they wanted a different challenge. It
Interesting.
is true that it's easier if you have a sense of rhythm and time, but it's also true that it's not necessary for you to be able to get a lot of benefit from that format.
Hmm.
So of course I thought, oh, I could do that. So I would go twice a week, and I would challenge myself to, in the walk back to my apartment, by the time I get back, I will have remembered the choreography, just as like an extra brain challenge. Just like you would recap certain plays of games or matches that you might play, not for the purpose of beating yourself up. Oh, I couldn't do this. I
Hmm.
made a mistake. Simply, okay, if I'm going to do this again, or if I'm going to be the one to instruct it, or if I'm going to be the one to participate in it, how would I change it? How would I
Hmm.
approach it next time?
So essentially, what you're doing while you're walking is visualizing
Yeah, exactly the
the
same
class,
way.
which is a cognitive
Yeah.
practice. Okay.
Yeah, which is what I was taught to do anyway in athletic training too, after a match or even
Hmm.
before an important thing. So
Oh,
I
okay,
kind of
that's
liked
interesting.
that I got certified in group fitness and personal training.
As as a teacher, as an instructor.
Yes, for instructing.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
I studied more and enjoyed that exam for certification more than any other exam I've ever taken
wow.
ever. And then I got hired right away into a gym to be able to start teaching fitness formats, and one of them was step.
And that is all happening while you are still at the university, like
Finishing,
working in
finish,
academia.
finishing PhD. Yeah.
Finish. Okay, so you're finishing your kind of academic career, and then you continue to do this for
Since
how long
then.
did you stay in
So it's
instruction?
been about 10 years
Wow.
since I
And
have been doing that.
and that's always been on top of any other work that you have been
Side
doing.
gig.
Okay.
It's the side gig. But it really is the it's not just the outlet or the side gig. It is my thing to teach fitness in that way, and then
Hmm.
apply it, as we've talked a lot about, apply those same principles of preparation, peak performance, helping others set and achieve goals, and all sorts of things at the
Hmm.
same time. But I've again been very fortunate to have mentors, to find happen right
Hmm.
time, right place. I mean, that's a lot of luck involved as well.
Hmm.
But I also wanted to expand it, so not just stay in step aerobics and not just teach one thing, because
Okay.
I wanted to see what other classes are like in other gyms. I taught in many different gyms. I've taught all sorts of different formats, gotten extra certifications to be able to just skill build and apply the same principles
So what did you
fast.
teach apart from the step aerobics?
Yeah, my other favorites to teach was aqua, pool, swimming, aqua aerobics.
Okay. Hopefully the listeners understand what those things are because I really can't
So
explain.
imagine there's a bunch of people in the pool and there's an instructor on the deck,
Okay.
and you might have a pool noodle or these little toys that have propellers on the end to add resistance in the water. They look like dumbbells, but
Okay.
they're
So this
made
is
for the
not like
pool.
teaching people how to swim.
No, aqua
This is like a working
aerobics.
out in water.
Yeah, working out in
Okay. All
water.
right. Okay.
It's one of the most underrated and most difficult exercise formats, I think, to do, but one of the most accessible as you age, provided you can get to the pool. Loved it. It was so
Yeah.
stereotypical. There are lots of older people in the pool because that feels good on their joints. And then every so
Mm.
often, young athletes do something different. You might see that athletes do CrossFit, or they'll do a weekend of rock climbing, or they'll do something different to just break up the routine.
for like overall development.
Yeah, overall
Okay.
development, just
Yeah.
for a few workouts, not to
Which makes
replace
sense.
their routine, but as part of learning and as part of challenging themselves
Yeah.
mentally as well. So every so often we'd have people from a basketball team or a local minor league baseball team come into the pool and they struggled. They could, and it's not that you have to tread water. They struggled just to let go of any misconceptions they had about the effectiveness of aqua aerobics, but they're
Mhm.
also comparing themselves to the other older people like 70, 80 years old in the pool who are still doing it, who can actually do difficult movements that require mobility and strength and resilience. And it
Okay.
was just fascinating to see how small shift like that can really push someone out of their comfort zone. Of
Hmm.
course, you have to design the class well and follow through
Okay. Okay.
and always watch and keep people safe and not
Hmm.
add too much. But yeah, that was one of my other favorites. I've done kickbox, I've done bar, I've done a lot of spin and cycling.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
yeah,
So okay, so there's sounds like a lot.
a
So
lot.
you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly side of the world of sports. I'm sure that's the
I have.
case.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an experience that you have that is very remote for me. It's I am a person who has never been challenged by my parents at all to do any sort of sports. It was always considered at my household a waste of time,
Hmm.
and that there are other things that the children should be focusing on. My parents were not particularly active. It took me many years to understand the drawbacks of this and not being able to build those habits early.
Mm.
The other challenge that I have always found, and that was looking at the other people, I never enjoyed exercise.
Yeah.
It made me either vomit
Yeah.
or extremely unhappy or sore,
Yeah.
or it made me super hungry,
Yeah.
and it tended to drain a lot of my energy.
Yeah.
And I now, even today, I understand the value and the need for exercising to be able to maintain your health, both cognitive and physical. But it took me going to medical school to
Mm.
understand that, but I still
Hmm.
have to force myself to it. I've never learned to enjoy it. I do things that are effective. My approach is very different. I do not
Yeah.
do sports for enjoyment. I do them because I know what I need and I do the thing that I have to do.
Yeah.
So, okay, I had an episode where I decided to hire a professional trainer
Hmm.
to help me with
An
resistance
episode.
training. It was an episode because it was a very expensive, a very dreadful experience
Okay.
as well. It didn't help me achieve any of the goals. I assume it was typical. I went out, filled in a questionnaire. Somebody asked me
Oh,
a couple of questions.
okay.
And 4 months later, without any progress and increasing injury to my shoulder, I decided to focus on something else instead. So
That's a long time to keep.
I really, really tried, and I also paid up front. So maybe that was the reason why. But yes, that ended relatively quickly. With your
Interesting.
experience of the, because I'm sure you've seen a lot of what's going on. But if someone who is listening to this podcast decide, you know what, I need a support from a professional to get myself moving a little bit more,
Yeah.
what should they be asking a potential trainer that they approach?
Yeah, that's such an important question. So it also depends on how familiar is someone with exercise and movement.
So let's assume they're similar to me, so not really familiar.
First would be, well, you should have a conversation, not a set of questions that are standard, and then you just go off of that. You do want to be able to know what your movement patterns are. If the goal is simply, I just want to move more, great. That's a good starting point for anybody, even if you are familiar with exercise. So, if you're vetting what a trainer can do for you, I think you need to be able to know what their approach is.
Hmm.
What is your approach for someone like me? What kinds of things will we be doing?
Hmm.
What specific activities can we do? How will you assess overall strength, my mobility, my ability
Hmm.
to overcome difficult challenges, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you kind of want to know this for yourself. I think you would want to know that the person you're working with can objectively assess you for where you actually are,
Hmm.
not force a program onto you, and not just talk about the outcomes from other clients because
Mm.
everybody is different.
Yeah, that's a
Every
sales pitch, right? And
Yeah, I
essentially,
mean,
yeah.
yes,
Mm.
I understand the value of social proof. A lot of times
Mm.
people only are having conversations with PTs
Yeah.
because they saw their friend or their friend recommends or something. And that is powerful, but
Hmm.
this is about you now. This isn't about anyone else. And another thing, if you're having a conversation with someone to say, I'm a little bit intimidated by the gym, or it's been 20 years since I even entered a facility, or I'm just coming off of a knee replacement, or whatever it is,
Hmm.
you should know and assess for yourself that the PT you're working with, or trainer, or fitness instructor is able to understand exactly where you are physically, mentally, ideally emotionally as well, but assess for your strength, mobility, balance, and what you're really looking for first.
Hmm.
To do that, it doesn't take a questionnaire, at least in my opinion.
Interesting.
It's important to know what your habits might be, right? Because you
Hmm.
don't want to provide simple wins that'll work for someone and not work for you.
Yes, I mean this is probably a very big one because we see this constantly on
Yeah,
social media. We need to talk about that, I guess, as
everywhere.
well, because that's as it is with pretty much everything. There's no such
Yeah,
thing that best exercise for this or greatest sport for
there
that, right?
isn't. I mean,
There's no such thing, right?
there's proven exercises based on how the human body is designed that will put appropriate load, that you'll be able to progress
Hmm.
safely, that you'll be able to build muscle or build up your balance and mobility
Hmm.
in a way that will help you age well. There are specific exercises for that,
Yes, because
but
that's
that's not what
physics,
you're
right?
talking
That's
about. That's
no, no,
later.
okay.
Yeah.
So, as someone who is completely naive or aware, what are the minimum standards that you should be expecting, and how do you assess whether the person you're approaching meets those standards?
In my opinion, the basic standards for someone who's now giving you a level of care for your physical health beyond your medical professional team, do they listen to you? Not just listening to what you say, but are they evaluating your movement on the day and each subsequent visit that you have? So are they
Hmm.
actually listening and looking at your ability to move? Are they
Hmm.
are they putting in place metrics or specific measurable things as you move? Or are they saying, here you go, here's some exercises we're going to do today? They write or they're on their phone for the session, or they give you a printout and they go, great, I'll see you next week. And there's no follow up, there's no reasons why you're doing
Hmm.
this and explaining them. You should, at minimum, also expect them to be able to show you the exercise as well themselves,
Hmm. Interesting.
which rarely happens. I see, at least more and more. A PT might do one rep and then they'll move the pin and they'll go, okay, but you're here, right? So it's not really the client's workout anymore.
Yeah.
They should be able to at least show you the proper form for the exercises that they're asking you to do.
Hmm.
They should explain why they're doing them. They should also meet you where you are and why this benefits you right now.
Okay.
This isn't for PT, but this is for group fitness. So, in my experience, we see a lot of over exercisers in spin classes.
Over exercisers.
Over exercisers. These are people who go to spin every day or 6 days a
Oh,
week.
yeah. So no recovery essentially built in between
Yes.
the. Okay. Hmm.
And or the people who only measure the value of their spin class based on the number of calories that show up on the screen or their watch
I see.
or the
Okay.
miles or some other number. And I've seen this in every single spin class I've ever taught at like 10 different gyms. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because what I used to say in those classes, not just for the over exercisers, but for anybody who shows up to a very high intensity workout, are two things that they should keep in mind. One is that this is between you and your bike. This has nothing to do with what I'm doing, partially because I'm not doing the same workout that I'm telling you I'm doing because it's
Well, yeah,
physically
because you're
impossible.
teaching, right?
It's
Yes, you wouldn't be
physically
able to talk,
impossible.
for example, right? Yes, of course.
You
Yeah.
shouldn't. And there are periods in the class where you can benchmark that and say, here's where you might want to be in your effort. But if I was to
Hmm.
truly do physically the workout that I'm instructing, not possible.
Yeah.
Same for step, by the way, but there's ways that you do that. But so one is this is between you and the bike. And I want to make sure that you're safe and you're set up properly so that you can get the most out of this. And the second is it doesn't matter what you did yesterday and it doesn't matter what your goals are for tomorrow. It's great to think, okay, yesterday I got 50 miles on the bike. Not in a class. You would never get 50 miles in a class. But today I'm going to do 51. Like it's irrelevant because it's you've
Mm.
slept differently, you've eaten differently, you've had a different conversation with your partner or your kids that morning. It
Yes, your
all
biology is different
impacts.
today. Yes, you might. Yes, all of these factors.
It's important to let it go, whatever you did.
Mm.
Great that you worked out. Glad you're here today. It doesn't
Yes.
matter that you're training for this ride in a couple of weeks. Today, like the next 50 minutes, it's only about right now what you can do.
Okay, so this is the consistency that matters, right?
Yeah.
Far more than anything else. And
Yeah.
again, it's very similar to cognitive training, right? It's the
Yeah.
no rest between taking on voluntarily too much. That leads to burnout and
Yeah.
injury.
Yeah. And I think for bringing this back to PT, what you can expect is, yes, you need a sense of direction. You need a goal. It will change along the way, right? I mean,
It
there's
should
there's
probably
reasons
also
why you
change.
add and yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
But in the training that you're doing in the moment, because that's what we're doing. I mean, you don't exercise today while your head is in tomorrow, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you'll injure yourself, you won't do it properly, and you'll get there faster to your goal if you
Hmm.
really are fully focused on what you can do physically, mentally now. So if you have a personal trainer or a fitness instructor who's constantly either comparing themselves, because people do this,
Mm.
to the class
Yeah.
we did last week or next week, while you're trying to focus on delivering quality instruction, you will lose
Yeah.
form, you'll lose attention. It's dangerous to do that. So I think you need
Very
someone who's
interesting.
fully present. So, and then someone who will actually follow up. For some personal training, like through gyms, typically you might not interact with each other during the week. It depends on the client, but typically if you're
Mm.
employed by a
Yeah.
facility,
Yeah.
there is no communication in between. So when they do come back, it's kind of like, a physiotherapist, same thing, right? You wouldn't
Mm.
exchange messages with them, which is why private can be helpful depending on your goal. But if you
Yes.
have someone like the person that you hired for 4 months, I mean, did he or she message you in between and say,
No.
okay, and if they could have, it's not just, hey, how's it going? I hope those muscles are sore, right? Like that's not the point. The point is to
Mm.
validate what they did in the session, understand what's really going on so that you can plan for the next one in a meaningful way. That's the goal. Everybody's needs change. So you do need to be a little bit flexible in understanding how to modify, but the planning coming into the client isn't just, okay, who's next? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, push-ups, right? It doesn't,
Interesting.
it
Yeah, mine
just,
was spending most of his time on his phone. While that's something
I'm
that
surprised you let someone last for 4 months.
I paid up front, right? But I also seen this, and I think that one of the moments I started realizing over time is that there's a little bit sometimes of a conflict of interest because a lot of private PTs are being paid for sessions.
Yeah.
So they will, that's interesting that you said about overdoing it.
Yeah.
Because there is this risk or bias as well that you might have, maybe if you don't have enough clients, or maybe you need extra money.
Yeah.
It's easy to squeeze in sessions that people don't need. I think we talked briefly in one of the previous episodes about the issues or challenges caused by overtraining, which not just erase your progress, it actually makes things much worse. And you're getting worse results, yeah, than if you didn't.
Scary. And it's so
Yeah.
prevalent. And there's really not a lot of answers on how to recover from this
Yeah.
physically and mentally. But maybe that's a tangent we can go on separately.
So you are at a certain level, and the reason you're training is to get better. right? Whether this is a cognitive training, you're going to get more resilient or
Yep.
mentally strong, or it's the same
Yeah.
thing for physical training. You want to be stronger as you
Yeah.
continue through the training. But what happens quite often for people is that they reach a certain point, they make progress at the beginning,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's quite quick, especially if you haven't done anything, and then it stops.
Yeah.
And that's the moment where a lot of people get discouraged and they say,
Yeah.
okay, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. And
Yeah.
so let's talk about this, reaching that point. Um, I've heard people saying, oh, I have been training for 6 months and I'm not making progress anymore. And there's always a reason why. Oh, I've reached
Hmm.
the plateau, or I don't train enough, right? Which sounds like
Yeah.
you just mentioned about this is probably not the right way to think about it. Or oh, I've reached my genetic potential, right? That's
Hmm.
as far as I can go, or something like that. And the only way forward is now drugs, or I need
Hmm.
anabolics, or I need this, or I need to supplement with something, right? Because there's no
Hmm.
progress. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
That's a very
Interesting.
common point where people quit and never come back to the gym. Let's talk first about this phenomenon of this plateau, right? The people think that they hit certain point where they are unable to make any more progress.
Yeah.
And my experience is from talking to people and
Yeah.
also later working with people who hit those moments. I know what happens really, but it's rarely what people think it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
And at the time when I was trying to work with my trainer, what was younger, I wish I knew what I know right now. So let's
Mm.
talk about plateau and the adaptation and how well-designed training program takes into account those two.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the most common plateaus that I've seen clients and participants talk about is weight loss because they go
Yeah.
into a physical exercise program.
Ah, okay.
They they want to lose a little bit of weight, or they start going to group fitness classes and they start losing a little bit of weight.
Okay, so not performance related, but people
No.
plateau because their goal is to lose weight and they
Yeah.
believe they're going to achieve this through exercise.
Yes. This
Okay.
is just the one common example that comes up with people in PT, one-on-one, or in group fitness. And then after maybe 6 months, it could be less, maybe 3 months if they last that long, they reach a point where they're not losing weight anymore. But maybe things like your nutrition and your sleep are not really being addressed because one, a PT is not qualified to be able to
Mm.
give you that instruction. That's why you need someone with that expertise, or they should at least be having this discussion that these are important parts, other pillars of your health. It's
Yes.
not me who's qualified to do this, or it is. That's why we work together. But please make sure that you're also factoring this in. So that's like, it's sort of this artificial plateau though, because people also
Yes.
find that because there might be other things going on that are not part of your exercise program, but that's why they're even more critical to factor
Okay,
in
so
if that's your goal.
let's stop right here, right, for a moment, because there's this thing that I say to people: you cannot outrun a donut. And
Hmm.
what I mean when I say this
Hmm.
is that this is probably because of the let's say commercialized or social media type of influencing when it comes to
Yeah.
sports and movement,
Yeah.
that physical exercise is the method of losing body weight, which it isn't, right?
It
Because
isn't.
that's
Yeah.
that's 90% of that is nutrition, not
Hmm.
movements. You
No.
can be losing weight watching TV and eating donuts, provided that it's just not many of them. That
Y-
the energy that you're putting in
Yeah.
is far less than yes. So losing weight has not necessarily anything to do with exercising,
No.
right? The exercise has that's a completely different thing. It's an energy
Yes.
balance thing. So let's talk about this very briefly then, because you are also a certified nutritionist, right?
Yes.
And it's not just weight loss; it's the same thing for weight gain. People for years using steroids. Oh, I'm injecting myself with this. I'm doing that, and spending tons of time in a gym, maybe
Yeah.
or probably also overtraining, my muscles don't grow.
Yeah.
And whether they are teenagers or whether they are going through menopause or whether they are in their 60s, oh, I cannot. Yes, it gets more difficult as you age.
Yeah.
But the first thing that you need is the building blocks for the
Yep.
muscles you're trying to build. And that
Yeah.
comes from the stuff that you eat and from how well you sleep, because that's your metabolic elements. And they're far
Yes.
more important than time spent in the gym in the first place.
Yep. If you're going to do proper personalized fitness, exercise is just one piece of that.
Yes, it's a
And
small
you
piece of the
cannot
puzzle.
ignore the nutrition and sleep, but there's a lot of bad advice and a lot of non-compliance out there. So
It's probably what sells as well, isn't it? It's like
yeah.
it's easy to see. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the plateau and
So let's go
adaptation.
back to the plateau. So
Yeah.
like weight loss is kind of nuanced, but that's commented on because you think you're moving more, therefore I should be losing weight, even though if you are building muscle and depending on what energy you're putting in and out, you may or may not see a shift in weight.
Hmm.
I think weight, the number, people fixate on that. There's other ways to evaluate your progress. So that's not necessarily a plateau. Another plateau might be the way your clothes fit, or it might be that the same exercise that you've been doing becomes a lot easier. So you don't feel like it's difficult anymore. You're not feeling
Yeah.
challenged, whether that's physically or mentally. That's either a plateau because you are literally doing the same exercise. There's some classes where it is literally the same series of
Yeah.
exercises for the same
Hmm.
duration, which can be convenient if that's the only time you can go to the gym, but it's not necessarily what's going to build muscle. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just a practice and showing up to the gym and then moving your body, which is great. But again, it depends what your goal is. But if
And
you're
we adapt,
doing
body adapts quickly, right? I think that's something that we need
Yes.
to say.
If you're going to personal training sessions or you're able to walk a different hike or a loop and it's easier than it was, but you don't feel like it's harder, that doesn't mean that you've plateaued. That means that you've adapted. And
Yes.
that is what you want the body to do, and it will do it very fast.
Of training,
Yeah.
adaptation, and then you
And then you change
adjust.
it, and then you change it, you
Yeah.
adjust, right? Appropriate for where you're going and appropriate for what your muscles can handle, right? I mean,
Hmm.
there's like that's where the expertise that's another minimum basic standard would
Hmm.
be that your trainer would know how to add progressions or add load in some way. It's not always adding weight either,
Hmm.
so that you can continue to adapt, can continue to build strength, can continue to build resilience
Hmm.
throughout. Plateaus might mean that, okay, maybe an adjustment needs to be made, so then you can move in a different way. But if you are changing things in your diet and
Hmm.
there's nothing else to consider, right? Medications, genetics, like you mentioned, your
Yeah.
sleep, your emotion regulation, like all those things do matter and those do feed into how your body will react in a way. But that's not the same as going to the same
Hmm.
fitness class and then nothing changes in six
Yes.
months. If it's too intermittent, and I mean this happens a lot too. I don't know how much you experienced muscle soreness in the 4 months with your trainer, but sometimes people will start a program and it's too much. So it's very off-putting as well. You might have discovered muscles you never even knew were
You even knew
there,
exist.
but
Yes.
those are the
Mm.
ones keeping you standing up every day,
Yeah.
right? Or sitting up, and now you're actually working them. And then what happens? Oh, well, I can't do it this week because you're too sore or you're just avoiding it. And then you move it to the next week. So then there's not enough of this natural progression in your
Hmm.
exercise program to allow for either the
Yeah.
person training you to understand fully where you are and then help you adapt, or that you can't physically do it either.
That makes it very clear that of the importance of very well designed, constantly adapted, and
Yeah.
supervised plans. It probably
Yeah.
also explains what we see in the world of sports that
Yeah.
every athlete who wins at something, they're not going in and win by themselves. There's a team behind them.
Yeah.
There's a trainer and a coach. There's a
There's
often
many. There's
yes,
many.
there's
It's
a
a
medical
staff.
professional. There's a
Yeah.
nutritionist. There's a whole
Yeah.
team optimizing, regulating, advising,
Yeah.
planning, and doing the work for you. You just outlined why downloading something from the internet or inputting a prompt into ChatGPT cannot and will not ever
Yeah.
replace that. I mean,
It just won't. Yeah.
it's impossible because there is no input on an ongoing basis that would be
Yeah.
required from someone who knows much more than you do and observes
Yeah.
you from the outside. And you
I think
mentioned the load as well, right? Which we know from the
Mhm.
cognitive space, the stress that you
Mhm.
need to put, and
Mhm.
then the time that you need to recover.
Yeah. But this is also why training for group sports, if anyone has played any high school sport or college sport, you start training 6 months before your preseason for a
Mhm.
reason, right? You want to get your body into a shape that you will then be able to
Mhm.
maintain and then adapt for there for the sport.
Yes.
Because it's not necessarily about now being able to do the work physically or the sport
Yeah.
physically. You're avoiding mental plateaus as well. Those are just as important. So, especially if you have an athlete who is particularly hard on herself, there's all these different signs that you want to be able to correct for as the training staff
Hmm.
that will keep them safe, but
Hmm.
also avoid those kinds of mental plateaus that are really the reason.
So let's talk about this because that's an area that I'm really interested in. About let's talk about first the mental plateau because many people might not know this. Our brain is built in a way that prioritizes minimizing unnecessary energy
Yeah,
expenditure. It's a part of the survival mechanisms that we
yeah,
have. And one of them is giving you a story or telling you, giving a signal why you have reached the point where you can no longer push yourself.
yeah.
I have discovered this. I think I know the answer to that question, but I want to ask you as the expert here. When you are, let's say you are following up your own exercise program, you think you are the person who can do it all. You're doing push-ups, you're jumping around the house, you're lifting things, maybe you jogged for a while, and then you reach the
Yeah,
point say, okay, that's it. Like I'm done. I cannot take a single step, and everything in your body and your brain is telling you that you reached that point.
yeah,
Where are you really?
yeah. You're probably only halfway there.
Yeah, that feels about right.
Yeah,
What I've discovered myself. Yeah.
yeah. And if you really step out of this, if you have true fatigue in your muscle, where you physically cannot pick something up anymore, it doesn't have to be a weight, it could be a bag of
Yeah.
groceries. You know what that feels like, right? Either it's right before it's about to become very, very painful, and then you will not pick it up, hopefully. Like there's mechanisms in place to have you not do that, right? But
Yes.
that's a very different feeling than just being like, ah, I'm tired. I can't do this
It's
anymore.
not just tired. I feel like I have the story in my brain telling me that I'm about to die if I take another step.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
know that if I shut this down, this narrative,
Yeah.
like I'm probably halfway through. I can do another
Metabolically,
hour. Yeah.
you have plenty left in the like it's plenty
Yeah.
left. It's sort of when it shifts into a different energy store. And that's where a good coach will, depending on, again, what your goal is and what you're training for. Some days you need to stop there. Other days you need to show yourself that you can move it.
Hmm.
Because if you always stop at your 50%,
Yeah.
you will plateau very fast. You will burn out.
Mm.
You will feel bad about it over time.
How big is the mental component in
Yeah,
sport?
in my opinion, it's 90% mental.
Mm.
Exercises are designed to work with your body and with your muscles, the way your body is designed. So even pull-ups, even push-ups, where it's really against gravity. There's nothing physically incompatible with your body. Whether you like to do them, that's part of your mental.
That's a different story.
That's
Yeah.
mental. Whether
Mm.
you've done them because there's a challenge, that's mental. Once you are getting the form at a point where it goes with your body, like all exercise should be. So you've already taken care of that part. That is the 10%. That's why you're doing the exercises you're doing, so that you
Hmm.
can now continue to
Hmm.
build the 90% mental that goes in to be able to do more of them or do them faster or slower or in different ways with different load so that you're not messing with the form and you're not messing with the way your body needs to move to build muscle or
Hmm.
build strength and build resilience. You're simply now allowing your training to become like to focus on the 90% mental part. And if a
Okay.
trainer is
Interesting.
only focused on counting the number of reps that you're doing and not watching
Mm,
or observing or assessing when you reach that 50% mark, they're not training you in the 90%.
yeah.
And arguably, they're probably not even training you in the 10% either.
Interesting. Okay, so so we talked about this, the difference between plateauing or reaching a certain point and then the adaptation. Adaptation is something that you need, and then this is where the point where you adapt the
Yeah.
plans.
Yeah.
Um, I think that something to talk about as well is the genetics as well, because that's something that we often ignore. I mean, there are some people, they're very lucky people who can sit on a couch and they will look super fit, and they just won the genetic lottery.
Hmm.
But for most of us, this is not the case, right? Most of
Yeah.
us need to put the effort in. But
Yeah.
what you can realistically to achieve, I mean, because what I'm trying to get to is that, let's say it's weight loss. They set themselves to reach that goal. And we see that a lot of them don't understand that once you reaching that goal is easy.
Yeah.
But once you reach that point, staying there will
Yeah.
take much more effort
Yeah.
than it took to get there in the first place.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the further away you go from your genetic thermostat, the more energy it requires to keep you there. So let's talk about this. The role of the blueprints that you have received at birth, that you have no control over, and also the other end. There are a lot of people who will say, oh, I'm not fit. I look that way. I
Mm.
eat this crap because those are my genes, right? I have been born like that. Or that's another pile of crap. So let's talk about the genetics here in sports for
Yeah.
normal people, right? And then also at the
Hmm.
extreme ends
Hmm.
when it actually starts to matter in elite performance.
Yeah, this is interesting. So I think one of the first episodes we ever did, we talked about there is genetic predisposition around how much fat you will have in your body. And we're not talking about
Yes,
that here.
percentage, right? This thermostat. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's an interesting topic on its own. But that doesn't mean that you reach a point and it's, oh, that's it. That's all they can do necessarily. But
Yeah,
there
it's also
are,
not 40%, right? It's
yes,
yes, it's plus or
right.
minus three, right? Or five maybe. Yeah,
Yes. I also want to say that the person who sits on the couch and looks fit isn't necessarily fit, right?
exactly.
You cannot base your fitness on your appearance, okay?
Yes, but this is how a lot of people will judge
Of course.
someone. Yeah.
So I think what's interesting is like growing up in the US, there's metrics that you need to meet depending on how old you are. You need to run a mile in a certain amount of time if you're female or male. You need to be able to do a certain number of sit-ups. You need to pass the pacer test and those kinds of let's say fitness markers if you're a healthy teenager.
Hmm.
Okay, because they start training you in
Yes,
how
there is
to
this standardized assessments that,
standardized
yeah,
assessments,
yes.
yeah.
Hmm.
And even then, I mean, there were probably 60%, maybe a little bit more of the kids in the class would be considered unhealthy, would not meet the requirements or the
The minimum standards.
for fitness measurement. Okay. So many different reasons for that. But that's like after you leave school, unless you are continuing in track and field or cross country or you are a runner, you're no longer using your mile time to measure your fitness, right? It becomes less
Yes.
important in a way, but your ability to be able to move your body and walk or lift a certain way becomes more important and a much more important measure of fitness. And that I think is where genetics will play
A role. Yeah.
another role, a different
Yeah.
type of role that may show up differently than it did when you were a teenager. If we're thinking about physical performance, we're talking about mental being a substantial part of being able to do that. You decide whether you get up off the couch or not. Your body will do it after. I mean, think about
Hmm.
that. Is it really 90% you get up off the couch, or is it
Hmm.
the 90% of the time that you're debating whether to get up off the couch and move, right? It
Hmm.
is mental, but so when it comes to your genetic predispositions, we're not talking about your genetic predisposition for just your metabolic rate. This isn't about the fat, the tiny little margin of adipose tissue that you'll be dialing in and out of. This is more, there's genetics around just your cognitive capacity,
as well. Yeah.
um,
Which is
your,
trainable as well.
yeah, trainable.
Yeah.
There's length of your muscles that varies human to human. That's just less
Yes, size of
genetics.
the
That's just,
skeleton, size of the skeleton, the type
yeah,
of the
that's
muscle
just
fibers,
anatomy.
your sex as well, right? For example, I think that's an
Yeah,
obvious one. And your metabolic rate or the amount of hormones you're producing, the size that you have will impact your
yeah.
ability to do certain types of sports. But that matters at an elite level, right?
For the
That's just,
everyday exerciser, I think what's been unfortunate in the popular culture around fitness is that you'll have a peri or postmenopausal woman
yeah,
say, I just have a slow metabolism. That's why I'm
yeah.
50 pounds overweight. And that's just not, it's
Mm.
just not true. When we're talking about genetic predispositions or even menopause, there's no such thing as slow and fast metabolism in the way that will prevent you.
It's like 3% difference, right, between one end and the other.
Not in
It's
the,
like
yeah,
it's yes, and it matters maybe when you are world's top
yeah,
athlete, but it doesn't really matter for anyone
no.
else. It's like it's completely irrelevant.
And just to come back to the plateau idea,
Hmm.
so there are super simple ways to push yourself a little bit more.
Hmm.
Uh, if you're looking for ways to push yourself a little bit more and you're the everyday exerciser or you're just the everyday mover, you're a human. You're not the person who's trying to qualify for the next Olympics
Hmm.
or even the ex-athlete. There are very, very simple things that you can do to test
Hmm.
yourself that will
Hmm.
continue to just give you tiny, tiny little increments
Yeah.
of edge. And those are like the 1%. For example, we're talking about getting up off the couch, right? You can get up off the couch within 5 seconds of you considering that you're going to get up off the couch instead of 30 minutes, for
True.
example.
Yeah.
Once you get up off the couch, you can just like lift yourself up a little bit and then continue on the way, right? Add in a little bit more momentous movement. And that's one more calf raise that you did today that you didn't do yesterday,
And that's
right?
progress.
It is. I've done some things with my dad where we were testing some balance because that is often overlooked as well in your personal exercise program, which is a mistake.
Extremely important for long-term health and injury prevention, though. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, and or it's only factored in if you're recovering from something that now requires you to look at it because if you don't, you won't recover that muscle as fast as you want. That's separate. But, make eggs on one leg. Like hold up, you can't see me, but
Interesting.
like, my left foot is up. So test it, do your scrambled eggs on this side, and then tomorrow you do
Mm.
your scrambled eggs on the other
Okay,
side.
okay. So this is not an advice that we're giving that when you're cooking next to a fire, you should be practicing your balance, right? Yeah, plant both of your feet, but maybe when you're brushing your
Like I
teeth,
said, an
and it's
experiment in-house. Yeah.
yes, yes, it's not a recommendation, but I think it's a great
Making
idea.
coffee in the morning. If you're waiting for something to happen or around the water cooler, like
Yes,
testing
built
your
in those
balance.
moments. Yes, yeah,
Yeah. So those matter, right? Because we keep talking about the 1% increments that matter for when you're an elite athlete, where genetics,
yeah.
you can look at SNPs and you could say, okay, this is how you can modify maybe to run a hundredth of a second faster. Or there's some interesting examples in swimming, right? Where if they would
Yes,
have been
yes, physically
shaped
shape.
for
Yes,
the sport, for their specific stroke,
and that would,
then
but and today it means often that in order to get to set a new world record, it's
yeah,
very likely you need to have certain genetic predisposition.
yes,
But to
yeah.
stay generally fit, no.
No, you don't. Yeah, that's
Really
it.
want to dig into this. Oh, okay. We know that from working with athletes too, that there's a massive difference between training for certain type of performance, beating the next world record or being the winning
Yeah,
rowing team or winning the next
yeah,
football game.
yep,
And there is a completely different type of a training that you would need to generally stay fit and live a long life
yes,
because these are not the
yeah.
same. And then separately, following that, the difference between this commercialized type of sports, that's what we see
Hmm.
on when we scroll on the TikToks and Instagrams, and
Hmm.
then the actual sports science, right? Because
Yeah,
these are not the same.
yeah. No, they're not the same. Okay, so high performance training versus training for long, healthy life, or just
Hmm.
being able to go about your day to day and kind of make that decline very nice and slow
Yeah.
as much as we can. There's some overlap in some of the principles. One is that it's a very clear goal, is that you are definitely training for a high performance situation, a meet, a match, the Olympics, a game,
Yeah. A run. Yeah. Mm.
qualifiers. So that's very clear what you're working towards versus I am working to move my body, right? Form is the same, no matter what exercise you're doing, but the specific exercises are probably very different. The training is different. If you're an elite athlete and the second matters of your time or the number at bats that you have matters because you're being scoped for major leagues, then it does come down to what you ate, how you slept, how you recovered in fine detail.
Mm.
So training is like 24/7 training, I would say. It's not this,
Mm.
you show up to the pitch, you are getting changed in the locker room and you're listening to your music and then you go out and you warm up with your team and then you
Mm.
play the game and then you like that's it. It's not that. I mean, a match started when you entered the sport, right? It doesn't start that day. It started when you started training 6 months ago. And that's why elite athletes have their meals put in front of them. They don't have to think about any of that because they need to focus their mental energy on staying focused and protecting their body as much as they possibly can to keep themselves in shape. So sleep is governed by your program. Nutrition is governed by your program, whether you're allowed to go out and party or not. Sometimes even limiting your social connections for a while might be part of that program. Just depends on whether that's very rigid. The actual exercises themselves are focused around that specific sport.
Yeah. And I think that's important to say because people often see the outcome, but they don't understand the
Yeah.
sacrifice that went into
Yeah.
achieving.
I'm
Yeah.
sure people have seen this imagery, right? How you train at work and how you train otherwise. The match is a very small blip on the timeline of a training program or of an athlete. Those are so tiny,
Yeah.
those moments. Ice skating, that's a good example. Ice skaters train on the ice for what, 6, 8 hours a day, and then they're also training off the ice. They're doing
Yeah.
massage and stretching and they're sleeping in a certain way. They train like that for years and then they have
Yes.
two
Yeah.
minutes to impress the judges and that's it, right? And then you need to recover.
This is
So,
this is very interesting what you just said. Before we continue with this, I think it requires an explanation because a lot of people, for example, say, "Oh, I'm getting training in something, not necessarily in sports, at work," which is
yeah,
exactly the opposite.
yeah, it
Is
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 the
you
opposite.
get a blip, a
Work, work, work,
10
work,
minute
work.
online
Oh,
training,
late
and
training.
then
I
you
have to do it now.
and then you
Yeah,
have to perform, and
yeah,
then next year, there's a mandatory refresher training, so we're going to do another 20-minute online thing, and then you kind of get, which is
yeah,
opposite to actually achieving results,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
train, and then when it matters, you show up, you win. And
Exactly.
I've seen this especially in the corporate world, so many times, this reversal, because they're paying you, they want you to do something, and people do mediocre work for the vast majority of time, if at all.
Yeah.
And the training, it's just a joke, right?
Well, we would show
Yeah,
up for soccer practice, and if there was any hint that people were not taking it seriously, I mean, go. You're gonna like you're taking laps until you're ready to show up because we were taught is
yes,
like this is more important than the game in some way because I can't
yeah,
trust you to show up for the game if you're not taking the practice seriously.
yeah,
There's a good example of this in NBA, National Basketball Association in the U.S. And I think in the 2000s, Allen Iverson, he was a very popular, he was a good basketball player, but he was notorious for show up late. He'll practice when he thinks he needs to. He was like uncoachable in a way, but he had such natural talent and audiences really enjoyed his personality that He just kind of got away with it until he was questioned in press conferences. And they said, like, where are you? Why aren't you showing up to practice? He said, because it's not a game. And there's like memes and all sorts of stuff. But it was
Yeah.
like this, well, hold on a second, because Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all of your competitors and all of these other athletes who are taking it seriously, and you walk in with this natural talent that bit him in the butt later on because he got
Well,
injured.
it must have because I've heard of Michael Jordan and I've never heard of this guy
Well,
that you
yeah.
mentioned. So clearly not the
But
best
it
way
but
to
it
defend
kind
the
of
world
brought to
talent.
light, there is maybe back to this genetic or this natural talent where that will only take you so far.
Yeah. Mm,
And it's also about respecting the other players, respecting the game in a certain way, but also respecting yourself enough to be able to show up in the way that you need to, no matter the situation. It also helps you to take some of the pressure off of the
yeah.
actual game. I mean, there's also training for peak performance that is part of that kind of elite level training, and corporate too, that's kind of overlooked.
What about the difference between this commercialized type of
Oh
sports that
yeah.
we see on social media?
Yeah, I mean, fad fitness is dangerous for a lot of reasons. One,
Yeah.
it'll promise results that aren't real. There's also, of course, dangers of social media and AI generated material. That's a separate topic. But if
Hmm.
someone's telling you that it only takes this amount of time or these movements to achieve a certain booty, like it just isn't that
Yeah.
way. Helping to clarify the kind of exercises that you'd like to do, or if it's a mechanism that helps you actually start a program or start moving your body, great. But don't rely
Yes.
on that to get results that or promise results. And
Hmm.
and I said earlier that for any muscle, there's very few exercises that are effective, that you can add progressive overload to if you need to, that you can get to hypertrophy if you need
Yeah.
to. And a lot of what we see on social media are not those exercises. Or if they are, it's not proper form, it's not being coached
Okay.
properly, it's about showing off in a certain way, or it's just dangerous. And again, you're only seeing a snapshot that's carefully curated. If someone
Yeah.
is training, there's only a few I would ever recommend to people if you need people in the online fitness space. There's only a few that actually say what goes into their training. The competitive lifting is a good example because you see that all over social media, and all different body types and all different
Yeah. Hmm.
people at different ages and different looks. And if you are, let's say, a 70-year-old woman and you're deadlifting 130 kilograms, you've been training to do that for 2 decades now,
Hmm.
by going up and down the steps, by taking grandkids out, by
Yeah.
doing things, and then putting effort into a program that's for you. And if you are doing that and you
Mm.
lift 130 kilos and you only get one for today, that's great. You celebrate that. You try again in a few days because now you need to recover mentally and physically. But people will go on there and compare themselves, and you're just seeing that one little recorded, curated
Yeah.
version of
Yeah.
something. And training because you want to be better for your long-term health and your disease risk is it anything that you've been told from the very beginning, right? You want to sleep, you
Yeah.
want to eat well, you want to take care of your body, move, and maintain some muscle. And there's tons of science. And if you're using, let's say, fear of menopause or fear of dementia, or
Yeah.
oh, my stomach doesn't quite look the way I want it to look like, or some other mechanism
Mm.
that's external, that's not a good place to start. We want you to be, I just want to move my body, and I want to be able to
Yeah.
put my cans of tomato sauce in the top shelf for as long as I can, or I want to be able to put my laundry in and out for as long as I
Yeah.
can. That does matter. I
Or
mean, people
put a
struggle with
luggage in
that.
the overhead compartment when you travel, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
practically speaking, that's what it is. I want to be able to walk my dogs long, right? I want to be able to go and do these things. And really what it is I want to be able to do the things I'm doing today that I take for granted, that I can do with ease without
Yeah.
having to put the extra effort into it as long as possible.
Hmm.
And you move your body, you do a little bit of strength, you test your balance, you avoid injury. If you're into longevity science and the exercise science around cardiorespiratory health, you get your heart rate up and you keep it there for half an hour or an hour, a couple times a week, right? I mean, it's like that's what you do. You don't go out onto the track after punishing yourself for eating a donut yesterday
Hmm.
and you try and make a new time. And that's not what it is.
I think we talked before as well that in order to stay healthy, you need aerobic training, you need resistance, you need some high intensity, and you need balance
Yeah.
as the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to take care if you want to live long and happy life about
Yeah.
staying able, preventing injury, and having enough of cardiorespiratory output to
Yeah.
carry you out throughout your life. And
Exactly.
you cannot just do one, right? It's not enough to do one or and then again the goals are very different if you're training for a specific purpose rather than when you're training for overall level of health and
Yeah.
fitness. And
Yeah.
so we talk about emotion regulation when it comes to cognitive fitness as one of the most important skills that you can learn in order
Yeah.
to be able to navigate the life at ease, right? Not to suffer from, let's say, mental related challenges, not beating yourself up, not standing in your own way to success.
Yeah.
What role, if any, emotion regulation play when it comes to successful sports performance
Oh,
for athletes?
immense. I mean, if you cannot label and manage your emotions in the moment, then you're putting your performance at risk. Not just your performance for actually being able to do the sport, but your interaction with your teammates, your coaches, any other human. That has a huge impact. There's a lot of training that goes into this as well. So let's talk about like high pressure sports. We're not talking about training at the gym or a group fitness class, though some people
Yeah.
put a lot of extra pressure on themselves, and that's manageable in different ways. But let's take like when people are at bat, if you're playing cricket or you're playing baseball or softball, and you only get like one or two shots at it in the game, and you practice hitting, right? So you're at bat, the opposite team pitcher is throwing the ball to you, and then you're gonna either bunt, hit, let it go, take a strike, foul ball. Like there's things you can do, right?
I'm assuming you're talking about one of the sports that you have mentioned, which I know nothing about. I thought the
So,
cricket is a little insect, but it turns out it's a game people play.
oh,
Yes.
geez, the English will burn you alive if they heard you say that. So, okay, so let's use that as an example for a sport where you're at bat. Though cricket,
Okay.
the batsman might be on the pitch for a lot longer, but you kind of get like one shot, right? And in baseball or softball or cricket, throw the ball. If you swing and you miss it, or in cricket, if it hits one of the wickets, that's a strike or that's a potential point against your team, or that's putting your team at a
Hmm.
disadvantage. And for some people, that is enough to plummet into a, oh my gosh, what did I do? How did I miss that? What do I do? I mean, you've seen batsmen kind of walk away from the spot, from the home plate. They might have superstitious things they do and they have to fix their uniforms and all these kinds of things as mechanisms to get to put focus on what is here and now again. It goes back to being in the present.
Hmm.
If people have, there is such a thing as where you miss it once and then you continue to miss it because you just
Hmm.
cannot get out of your own head
Yes.
or this series of bad luck. And it happens to professional players as well. You kind of train against this because the best thing you can do is label the emotion, experience the emotion,
Hmm.
and then like move on to the
Okay.
next one. There's an expectation that a professional or any athlete will maintain their composure, right? But sometimes it doesn't happen. I mean, sometimes you see coaches throw water bottles and throw stuff in the dugout and whatever, but that's maybe not necessarily the most professional way to manage for
Hmm.
emotion regulation. But in a way, again, it's this 90% mental. You are
Yeah.
constantly battling against your own perception of yourself and your own expectation. This is why principles of like visualization is very widely used. People take foul shots in basketball. You might see them a lot, like they'll kind of set themselves up, they might bounce the ball a little bit, they kind of bend their knees, and you can see that they're watching themselves. They're going to throw the ball, it's going to go into the basket, right?
Yes,
And it
they
doesn't always happen.
visualizing the outcome they want. Like we know that this is
Yes,
a powerful thing to
it is.
you know.
And then what
Yeah.
happens? Whether they miss it or make it, there are people on either side on their team that go, great, next, like pull out of it, right? You don't see someone ball up and get into their head
Hmm.
because that's not good for the team. For individual
Okay, so
sports like downhill skiing, okay, you take a tumble, right? What happens? They meet the coaches or people at the bottom, they work through their emotions, they move on to the next thing. It's part of training, it's part of the practice.
which is also part of life, right? We see that
It's part of life.
the
Yeah.
need of that mental strength, how
Yeah.
quickly, or resilience, which is essentially how quickly you can
Yeah.
bounce back,
Yeah.
determines the difference whether you win or lose long term.
This is why
I mean,
approaching practice as not practice, like as if it was something that was less than a game or a performance,
yeah,
is very important to approach this in that
it
way
is.
because that's
Mhm.
where you practice emotion
Yeah.
regulation and
The,
cognitive strength.
and I think this is a very important here to highlight because, we see people who have been stuck, let's say, in the past thoughts, for an event that happened decades ago,
Yeah.
probably didn't even happen, but they just recall it in a particular way.
Yeah.
Or worse, there are a lot of people paying and spending time with people who keep them stuck in the past
Yeah.
and trying to convince them that trying to understand what happened when they were 7 or
Yeah.
17
Yeah.
somehow magically, when they talk about this more, will make them able to be more successful, perform, or
Yeah.
unlock something in them today. It
Yeah.
won't. It
It
just
won't.
makes the problem worse because it reinforces that thing that caused trouble for you in the first place.
Yes,
Okay, so this is
take
an
a tip
example.
from the athletes,
Okay,
label it, move on, and if
brilliant.
it's a repeated pattern of
Yeah,
mistakes physically that you're making, right? This is why you watch the tapes after. You watch tapes for two reasons. One is to find patterns or opportunities for
yeah,
fixing form and mentality, and the other is to prepare for the next one,
yeah,
not to dwell in what you did or did not do,
yeah.
right?
Mm.
You're preparing for the next opponent.
It seems obvious, but yet it's striking how many people are, for example, stuck in therapy for years and discussing the same past events or ruminating on them, and they're surprised they're not moving forwards. Of course not. I mean, that's why would you, right?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, yes,
So one of my biggest challenges personally is consistency. Okay, I haven't been doing something. I know I need to do more. I need to move more. It's necessary to stay sharp intellectually because it works both ways. In the same way
yeah,
that mental performance matters for sports performance, physical performance matters for how your thinking works and how your
yeah,
brain performs. So I know
yeah.
that there are certain types of things I need to do. Consistency. How do I stay consistent? What's your best advice?
Consistency doesn't necessarily mean to be that you work out every day. Okay. So first it's again, are you training for
That's
I
the
know what
best thing
you're
I've
training
heard today.
for.
It's
It's
like, yeah,
just yeah, just move more, right? But one
mhm,
is to keep an accurate record of what you're doing. So journal
yeah,
and just be able to keep track of the days that you do a little bit more movement than others. Maybe there's reasons why you can or cannot, but to stay
yeah,
consistent, I mean, it seriously is Nike. Just do it.
yeah,
The other thing is consistency can be that you've just moved a little bit more than you did the day before, or the week before, or the month before, and then you build upon that. And often, what happens if you just set a goal, okay, I'm going to walk around the block, or I'm going to go down and back, or I'm just going to stand for an extra 10 minutes today. Usually, if that's where you start, it's what you say when it comes to procrastination or overcoming those kinds of things. Break it down into the tiny little thing that you can do. I'm just going to stand. I'm just going to take one little lap. I'm just going to take the stairs. I mean, usually once you start moving, you'll keep going for a little bit more. And then you write it down that that's what you did. And then you do it again in a few days or the next day or
Hmm.
whatever. So I think that one one way is, you know what? You get to be grateful to be moving now. Gratitude is another powerful way to stay
It is.
consistent. But it's not to necessarily trick yourself into it. It's just to say, you know what? I am glad that I can take the stairs today.
Yeah.
I am, it sucks and it's raining and it's cold and it's this or it's that, but I'm going to take the long way to get the mail or whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, gratitude is essential life skill, right? It's not just for
Yeah.
sports like that. We know that.
Yeah.
It's powerful. Okay, so that's
And then,
interesting. So you can
and
use
then,
gratitude to stay consistent.
yeah. And then
Okay,
reward yourself for what you did too.
interesting.
I mean,
Okay.
don't define consistency as, oh, I went to hit class 7 days last week, because that's also not maybe the best thing to
But
do
yeah, you
if your
probably
goal
shouldn't,
is
right? For
to,
high intensity, you probably shouldn't be doing that in the first
yeah.
place. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but stay consistent just means you're moving a little bit more than you otherwise would,
Hmm.
right? It can mean that you take an extra stretch before bedtime. That's okay to do this, right? You don't need to do a full yoga class
Hmm.
before bed, but maybe you just, again, allow yourself to be with yourself for a little bit more in a little bit different way than you might have otherwise. And
Hmm.
it doesn't need to be the same exercise every day, but just a little bit, if your goal is a little bit more
Hmm.
movement. Maybe you put your shoes on a little bit earlier. There's all different ways that you can do this, but I think
Yes.
just,
So it's interesting because it's behavioral essentially, that
yeah,
everything that you recommend is behavioral. Those are behavioral tools
yeah,
that you would put in place in order to be more consistent. So again, the answer is not
yeah,
in the actual exercise. The answer is it's
no.
mental in a way. And
The other thing I would, the other thing I would do is to recommend to people is do what you like to do.
mhm,
If exploring new fitness classes is something you like to do, just do it. That's consistent if that's
yeah,
something you do. You can be consistent by doing something once every 2 months for the next 10 years as well,
mhm,
right? If walking is something you like to do, do it. Don't force yourself into it
yeah,
if you're just starting out,
yeah.
because
Tie it to your identity as well, right?
it's
Yes,
going to
it
kill the, yeah,
that's
exactly.
who I am. That's what I like. Don't try to go outside of it or change the identity, right? Because that's the only
Yeah.
way to stay
That's
consistent
probably
long
a bit
term.
harder, right? And you'd need to be
Yeah,
aware of what identity you've built. Yeah. But
and at what cost as well? What will you be sacrificing for it as well?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, do most people over exercise or under exercise?
No, under exercise.
Yeah.
Most people
Like,
under exercise.
yeah, I
To be
completely
honest, most
agree
people don't exercise.
at all. Yeah. Yeah. And
So
and
you
I
need
think
to
it's
be
important.
exercising to under exercise.
Yes,
But yeah.
the reason I'm asking that question is because we don't want to give the wrong impression that working out too much is a problem. I mean, it is a problem for a small group of people, but the vast majority of
Yeah.
us are not moving near
No,
enough
nowhere near enough.
of where we should be moving. And for most of us, for like normal people who have work and kids and family life, not professional athletes, overtraining is unlikely to happen. Although there are some overzealous people who will injure themselves that way. For most of us, we need to
Yeah.
be moving more
Yes.
rather than less.
There's probably an important misconception here to
Mhm,
mention then is you are not using exercise as a justification for why you get to eat something as part of your cheat day, or you get to eat that pizza or that donut. That's not how it works. Yes, budgeting is important if that's your goal, but approaching exercise as the, oh, okay, good, I can go out for cocktails and I'm going to have all of
mhm.
this because I went to the gym yesterday.
Yeah, you
Those are
cannot
two
outrun a donut.
conflicting
Yeah.
things. And
Mm.
if that's what is the mindset, then talk with your coach about that approach, because there's something else going on. So,
Yes.
yes, it's energy in and out, but what you're putting in your body through your food and your diet, and then what you are expending while you're doing exercise, it's not quite matched up then in a
Yes,
way.
there's some other problem going on that you need to look at
Yeah.
closely. Yes. Okay, so that's one thing related to eating and moving.
Yeah.
Any other myths around can I eat? Do I eat before or after training?
Oh, I love this question. Yes, because this is also disguised as science, but it's not. So some people will say, oh, I can't eat before I go exercise because I will feel heavy, or I need to only eat apple cider vinegar and peanut butter before the gym, or
Mm.
all these different kinds of
Is
things.
that a thing? Is that what people really say?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard a
Okay.
lot of
You
different
heard it all. Yeah.
different things that people do or not do specifically. Should you eat? There's blanket statement is if you are a regular exerciser, if you don't have allergic reactions to your food, if you're not training for elite performance where your nutrition is already carefully calculated and timed based on
Yeah,
when
by
you
a team
sleep.
of experts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's different. But I mean, if you're hungry and if you need to eat and you're going to meet your trainer after work and you haven't eaten yet, eat. It's okay. You're not going to fill your stomach. It's not going to impact your muscles in a certain way. It's just not. There's no evidence around this. I think when people avoid eating because they think that they shouldn't before a heavy workout or something,
Hmm.
and they've never tested it. I mean, if you know that you eat something and then you get really, really tired and lethargic, that is going to impact how you approach your workout. But in general,
Yeah.
as far as the nutrients that you're putting into your body, you need food to be able to sustain you
Yes.
and after.
So I have a question here because when we talk about food specifically, and every time I accidentally go on social media, there will be 20 people, everyone giving you a different advice. You open a book, it says something. Someone else says something on TV. Eat this, don't eat that. This is good, this is bad. Your doctor tells you so like there's so much conflicting advice
Yeah.
on what to eat, when to eat, why to eat. And people pay a lot of attention to this, and they're
Yeah.
also deeply confused. And I
Yeah.
find this topic fascinating. I want to hear your thoughts on this because, if you speak to a farmer, how to make their animals fit, how to make their animals fat, how to make their
Yeah.
animals lean, how to make them give them more muscles. Like they know exactly what to do. There's
Yeah.
no ambiguity at all. When you
Yeah.
speak to an athlete, to a let's say a sports doctor working with an individual athlete on
Yeah.
what that person needs to eat and how much, right? Yes, you
Yeah.
said it's meticulously calculated to the gram, but they know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
So why is it that in such precise world there are billions of conflicting information
Yeah.
and most of that doesn't work because like probably most of people listening to this will
Yeah.
have tried something and it never worked for them and it never
Yeah.
will. How do you cut through this nutritional bullshit that you hear
Yeah.
from about from
Well, the
every
nutritional
angle?
bullshit is you're not optimizing, it's not nutrition. You're simply managing cravings because we've
Mm,
been approaching eating and diet as just one continuous stream of emotional eating. It's not nutrition. You're no longer really approaching it from that way, especially
mm,
if it's advice from people on social media. This fat, that fat is bad. This kind of protein is better and this isn't. That's not the question, right? The question
yeah,
is,
okay.
what
Take this
should,
powder, take this tablet, eat this, don't eat that, right? Kale or not kale. Like, eat beef, don't eat beef. It's
yeah,
like plants only,
I
meat
think
only.
we've just, food has become just another distraction, or we've been distracted by really forming our own relationship with food almost in a way. If I asked you what your preferences for music are, you know what they are, but you might dabble into different things and you might try them out, but like you know what you would like. Social media for me, what I see is it's almost like you're told immediately what kind of music you want to listen to, but then no, you need to listen to this kind of music. And if you want this kind of body, you need to listen to that. It's like it's all over the place with food. You've
Yeah.
lost your own clarity on not just what
And
your preference
everybody's trying to
is,
push their own on you
yeah,
in a
but
way.
what's good
Yeah.
for you, what you
Mm.
like, and yeah, and also the value of putting good food or good music into your ear, right? It's like that's the way that I see this is we've become so distracted and so influenced by these temporary it's not even fads. It's just look over here, now look over here, now look over here, now look over here. The reason why farmers and elite athletic trainers can function off of spreadsheets is because it is just that simple. They're not distracted by, if you want your cow to look like this in 6 weeks, this is what you should do, right? I think we overcomplicate it because we're allowing
Yeah.
social media to do exactly what it's designed to
Mm.
do. Pull us in, keep us there, keep us emotional,
Yeah.
and not like step back and say, do I even like my relationship? What is my relationship with
Yeah.
food? Do I even like what I'm eating? I mean, you meet your friends for lunch. Do you eat what you want, or do you eat for the picture? Do you even
Yeah.
eat, right? I mean, it's like just become this constant stream of emotions and distractions. You need protein. It's a building block. You need carbohydrate. It's a building block. You need fat. You need real sugar. Your brain needs glucose. You know that
Fiber. You
you
need,
need
your gut needs
fiber.
fiber, right?
You
Yes.
need
Yeah. Your
vegetables. You
heart
need,
needs fiber. Yeah.
like, it's just what you're made of, right? And depending on how old you are, how tall you are, whether you're male, female, it might differ slightly in the standardized compositions of that. Put clean things into your body, you're gonna put clean things out, right? You're gonna be able to perform better.
By
It's
clean, we
just,
mean minimally processed, right? The less
yeah,
processed, the better. Right? I've heard this very simple advice once from a research scientist on food. He said, um, everything, and he spent his entire life looking into what to eat, and so going through the decades of conflicting advice and changing trends. And he
yeah,
said that three things that stay consistent: eat real food rather than something that comes from a factory, minimally processed, not too much. That's it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty much that, or eat what you need and enjoy it. That's all there is. And okay, that's interesting to hear from you as well, because again, I think for most of us, a gram of protein this way or 2 grams of fat that way really doesn't matter
No,
for overall health. And the enjoyment, like if you're not going to enjoy this, you're not going to sustain it
no,
either. So
no, right.
yes,
Do you even know if you enjoy exercise?
yeah,
If the only thing you're doing is looking in the mirror and trying to do some squats, in order for you to stay consistent, there can be some sense of reward or enjoyment built in, because you don't want to approach something that is inherently good for you with that kind of approach. And that's very hard to do with all the distraction.
we talk about this sometimes in the cognitive space, but when do you know that you're heading for injury? Can you know that, or you just kind of happens and there was
Oh,
nothing you
yeah.
could do about it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for a lot of injury, unless it's a fall, like a sudden fall,
Hmm.
a lot of injuries in sports that I've seen, myself included, it's a symptom comes up and it's immediately justified away. Oh, it must be this. Oh, it must be that. It can't be that because I have this performance in a week. It can't be that. There's usually some sign of either muscle weakness or strain, or there is a physical symptom that happens. And then overuse or improper form, or not training that properly, or not telling your trainers that you even have this developing, eventually will make that injury worse. So often it is, especially with competitive people, will just ignore early symptom. It'll get made worse.
Yeah.
Continue to overtrain, it will snap, or it will just reach a point of.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing is, if you're not training for a while and then you use a muscle, muscles are connected to bone through tendon, right? So if you're moving your body in a way that you haven't in a while, and then you do something strenuous or something different than your normal routine, that will put a certain type of load on a weak muscle and the weak connective tissue between that. So that also is not really properly preparing for that activity. I don't want to say warming up because I don't want to give the impression that a warm up will, like, there's a warm up needs to be appropriate for the exercise you're about to embark on. And a
Hmm.
warm up isn't like, this is not a warm up, right? Like a couple of quad stretches
That's
and
not what my PT
what
said.
you like what you saw Rocky do is not a warm up, okay?
Oh, mm.
Sorry. Yeah, not being able to prepare your body for the exercise that you are going to do long term is another reason for this. Being too ambitious with what you're trying to lift in the moment. Again, that's preparation, right? You don't just jump from 50 kilograms to 100 for most exercises, right? You have to you it's called progressive overload for a reason. So
Mhm.
you also don't start at the maximum weight. You don't see all the preparation that goes into this with the full training session, right? I mean, if you're going to go for a PR, you've been working on this for months, years. And in
Yeah,
that session itself, that is the only goal. And you don't
that,
come into
yeah.
the gym, you don't do the small talk thing, you don't go into the sauna and then come out and lift, right? You properly
Mm.
warm up mentally as well. You evaluate whether today might not be the day for that, and that's okay too. So then there's all the cycles of self-talk that
Mhm.
contribute to injury in a way. I mean, we're talking about mental performance too. So if you develop this belief about yourself that you're not capable of doing it, that you're not progressing fast enough, that you're
Mhm.
not competitive enough, that whatever the stories are, but you don't work to break those, regardless of whether you're trying to put
Yeah,
cans of spaghetti sauce in the cabinet or whether you're trying to cut 2 minutes off a time, right? Like that's
yeah.
it matters. It matters what your mindset is too.
Interesting.
And that's
Okay.
burnout as well. So if there's something about your mental or emotional approach to the way you're
Mhm.
moving your body that is limiting your ability to progress or enjoy it, or it's keeping you stuck, just like you would for cognitive performance as well.
Yeah.
You identify it. What is it really about? You work to replace it or break it or
You
remove
replace
it.
it or break or change. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So my last question is, if you could only give one advice to the vast majority of the people, so we're going to do something that we
Yeah.
criticized, the social media guidance. One thing that you believe will work for most people,
Yeah. Walk.
but like truly would work for most,
Yeah. Go for
what
a
would it
walk.
be?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Go for a walk and go for a walk on some terrain. Yeah, like
Interesting.
go find a trail on a dirt road. Not
So
do
not a new some sort of a 30 days to new abs
no,
program, not lose half of your weight in 10 days, not to do this progressive
no,
calisthenic 30 days to being able to be,
no,
work in a circus kind of a thing.
no.
No, just walk.
Go out, go walk. Yeah. Now someone will say, "Oh, do I need trail shoes? Do I need these shoes? Do I need bare feet? I've seen this. I've seen." Okay, you need shoes that are not 5 years old that will support your body.
Okay. So can I
Um,
wear Crocs?
yeah, wear Crocs. I mean, know the risks, but yes, like the aesthetic risk as well. But
The,
know the
the social
risks.
social injury that comes
Yes.
with that is it?
Yeah. But it's you don't need to don't overcomplicate this. If
Mm,
there's so many benefits to walking in general, grab your spouse and your dog, go out for a walk, right? Take a different route, see something new. You might learn
mm,
something. Spend time together, socializing, right? I mean, eventually you'll have to bend down and pick up poop or something. But it's like it does matter. It could be the sidewalk, it could be anything. But a reason I'm saying trail and these kinds of terrainy walks is because it does challenge your balance. It does keep you interested. You might see some birds. Like there's plenty of reasons why. But
well,
that's
okay. So
yeah.
so go for a walk.
Go for a
That's
walk.
interesting. So we're going to put this on Instagram and see whether this will become trending in millions, or do you really need to come up with something ridiculous so that people
No.
can jump on this that will probably harm them in the long term?
Yeah.
Right.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Thank you, Sarah. Fascinating topic. We'll probably be back because there's a lot of things that we haven't discussed today.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, I find remarkable how much of what you discuss from the body perspective overlaps with the tools, techniques, the approaches that you would do for building mental strength and resilience as well.
Absolutely.
It's It's mind-blowing, actually. So again, great conversation. Thank you very much, and
Thank you.
until the next
Cool.
episode.
Cool.